L&T has done projects in Riyadh. For Riyadh Metro, we have done projects in Doha Metro and so on. And these are essentially part of consortiums. So we form part of consortiums. Many times we are leaders in consortium, many times we are partners in consortium. And this model will continue because we have the capability, we are doing things here. So we can use that to leverage and participate abroad.
Could you please tell us a little bit about your showcase at the IRE this time, and what is the message as well as the display you are showcasing at this event?
I think L&T Railways is a full range rail system integrator. I think that's a top line of our message. And then when I say that, we are into three main domains. One is civil and track. Predominantly track. We are not doing civil works because we have another vertical within L&T who does that. We are targeting the tracks. Number 2 is electrification, and number 3 is signaling and telecom. And then we do all the things together, which is a composite project, and that becomes an integration project. So that's what we are showcasing here. When I say track, we are doing track for mainline, we are doing track for metro, and there are different types of track. There is a track which is for semi-high speed, which is called pour slab track. Then there is a track for high speed, which is called J slab. Then you have track for metros, which is called plinth track. Then you have track for mainline, which is called blasted track. So we do all kinds of track, and which is very critical, high skilled requirement for good ridership and good safety and so on. So that's one domain. Second domain is electrification. Again, we do electrification for mainline, which is like you saw freight corridor. You have seen pictures here where we have done the entire western freight corridor and nearly over 50-60% of eastern freight corridor. We are also doing other electrification projects within Indian Railways, but on the other side we are also doing electrification projects for metros. Again, in metros you have different types of electrification. You have overhead electrification, which is 25 kV, and you have DC traction, DC electrification, and you also now have beginning to see a third rail electrification for projects like Agra Metro, which we are doing. So we have showcased that also here. And then third, equally important, is signaling and telecom. So signaling and telecom, we source our systems from key OEMs, and then we integrate that. We do engineering of that, application engineering of that. Similarly, we do telecom works where we evolve the telecom schemes and systems, and then we operate either directly ourselves or through our system integrators. And then there are projects which combine all the three functions. Indian railways and metros, many times they split packages. So somebody will say, I only want a track. Somebody will say, I only want electrification. So we bid for packages, we bid for integrated projects. So like we have done an integrated project in Mauritius, which is what I call track to train. So we made the track, we made the bridges, we made the stations, we did signaling, telecom, air fare collection. We also bought trains and integrated that. So we do from track to train. Similarly, we are doing projects in Dhaka where we are doing everything except trains and leaving aside the viaducts, etc. So I think that's what we are showcasing here. Apart from the overall system integration, we have also showcased projects which are very new, very marquee, both within the Indian geography and outside the Indian geography. I said Mauritius, I said Dhaka, and so on. So we have also reflected with them that we are also looking beyond India. So I think that's another message which we are showcasing by showing the kind of projects that we are doing. So I think we have touched on various projects, and we also projects which are recent. We have not shown projects with 10-year-olds. The projects which are now coming to conclusion, but also projects which are giving a specific message. Like we have a poster here which is showing high speed. I'm making a track for high speed, and there we have showcased. L&T is also doing viaducts on that. There are very high degree of specialized equipment which L&T has manufactured, because L&T also has equipment manufacturing capability. So we have showcased that. So I think we have showcased special projects and also given an overall flavor of the L&T vision. how we go in from India to outside geographies. I think that's broadly the message as far as this stall is concerned.
Thank you so much. The other question which we would like to get your insight is, in your opening remarks, you had mentioned about structuring the packages in larger ways so that companies like L&T can step in. What are the advantages you feel the railway gains by structuring packages in a way where the complete package can be given to a single company rather than breaking it into smaller points?
I think we are deeply conscious of the fact that the railway wants competition, and we are not worried on that. All we are saying is, if you break packages into either financially low value, which could be 100 crores or 150 crores, then many large companies like us will not participate in that. We surely look at a package size which is about 300, 400 crores or more. So there are two possibilities. One is you create larger packages, larger package sizes to excite companies like L&T to participate. But also we are saying you should look at composite projects, integrated projects, because in railways being a very specialized domain, as you would have heard in various forums, you need to have very strong engineering to be able to integrate civil with electrical, with signaling and telecom and rolling stock. So if you are not able to integrate that, then the whole system may not work effectively. So we are saying two things. One is, don't make it so small that larger companies, which are large number of larger companies, are not interested. And number two, try and make it composite so that your own engineering and interface management is reduced to the minimum, and you are having people who understand railways. People should not treat railways contractors like labor contractors. So you need to have people who understand engineering of railways, who are able to do application engineering of railways, who also have the methods and project management capabilities. So if you make packages which are economic to run, that's what we suggest. Many times people are not doing that. They're breaking it up into very small packages, and therefore contractors who may not have the financial credibility or the other skill credibility or engineering capability, they enter and they leave the project half done. So I think that creates a problem for the entire project. So that's what we have been propagating that. It's not in the paradigm of the way railways work, and therefore it will take time to change the paradigm. I mentioned in my talk on the EPC model. The EPC model has changed the paradigm, and that's the result how electrification was done so fast in the last 5, 6, 7 years, and you must be tracking that. We were doing less than 1,000 kilometers, we have done over 6,000 kilometers in the last few years. So the change in pattern was essentially because what we advocated was an EPC model. We are saying use similar models for track construction, and more importantly further combine multiple packages to get the best out of Indian engineers and Indian construction companies.
Thank you so much. And lastly, you mentioned about the Mauritius Metro as well as your presence in Dhaka, and I'm sure in the Middle East as well you've been engaging in metro projects. The Indian rail industry is also looking to export opportunities, and there is a talk about also indigenization of the PLI scheme and so on. Could you share some insights as a market leader of what the railway industry can do to make Indian competency better for export perspective, be it for rolling stock and even civil packages? And you're already doing something on the civil side, but how can the Indian industry look at global market as their potential market and design in India and supply from India for global projects?
I think when you say railway industry, you have different categories of that. Some who make the full systems. For example, a rolling stock manufacturer who makes and designs a full system. That's one level of development. The second level of development is a subsystem level or component level, as I call it. So I think component level we are already doing things where our medium industries can do these products and sell outside to major OEMs in a cost competitive manner. I think we have benefit of cost, and in many items whether it's forging or casting, we have cost competitiveness, so we could take advantage of that. Number two, we also have, when you say Indian industry, let us also be clear that many multinationals who have a facility in India, they are also Indian companies. So they could well have a competency center in abroad, but they are full-fledged Indian companies, and therefore they are very well equipped to look at whatever they are doing out of India to exporting it abroad. Engineering services is a classic example, where a lot of Indian resources are being used in India for projects abroad. So similarly for hardware, which is what people most understand, in the hardware also, if the Indian industry was done well, and within a multinational group, they could also very well explode within the group, which is also happening. If you see many companies, I have worked in Bombardier and I set up the metro factory. So the bogies of the metro which we made are being exported outside India. In fact, the whole metro trains were exported to Australia from India. So you will have to find this balance. I am not saying that your make in India, if you say the new trains that are being done are going to be exportable abroad, because people also look at different standards and different credibility levels and experience levels. So while it's good to do things, but I think we need to start learning to walk in India before we start running abroad. I think that's critical as far as manufacturing is concerned. You have enough manufacturing going on, but it will be component level, subsystem level. The multinationals could use their sources from here in a selective manner. Let's also remember that people don't open their markets so easy. So you can't have a situation where Alstom in India will start exporting to Europe. So they will also look at it from a cost economic standpoint. They're not going to shut their factories because they have a factory. Number two, in railways, since the volume of the product is very large, so you also have huge transportation costs. So sometimes it makes logical sense to manufacture in the local place. Exporting of metros from India to Australia was an exception, because there was no Australian manufacturing which was available there. So for them it was an option that they could use the Indian facility and export it there. But if you were to tell me that can we export to Berlin from here or Switzerland from here, I will say that's a long cry. Those industries must shut down there, and those are industries which are over hundreds of years old. They're not going to shut down, and they also have different standards of acceptability and so on. So let's take a step at a time. I think there is good possibility of India, for example, exporting to Middle East or to some of the areas who do not have the manufacturing capability. So they will either import from Europe or somewhere else. They may have their preferences today from Europe, but if Indian quality or the outfits of Indian multinationals are doing as well, and which is they have to do as well, that can be used as a source to export to countries who do not have the real manufacturing capability. Engineering, of course, is something which anyways currently is being used. You have large engineering centers in many of these companies. So that engineering center and project management centers are being used anyway. And so that's one element. Second is projects, like people like us who do projects. So people like us who do projects are participating actively. L&T has done projects in Riyadh. For Riyadh Metro, we have done projects in Doha Metro and so on. And these are essentially part of consortiums. So we form part of consortiums. Many times we are leaders in consortium, many times we are partners in consortium. And this model will continue because we have the capability, we are doing things here. So we can use that to leverage and participate abroad. So I think it's a way the world economics work. The same way I think it will be applying to India. You need to be very aggressive on costs. You need to be able to deliver, and you need to have quality which is acceptable at international level. So I think all these are parameters which, if it happens, I think one could move forward, and that's the direction some of us are taking, to see that the projects that we execute are of global standards and therefore are acceptable to people, and they respect us, and we are taken as a preferred partner. L&T today is considered as a preferred partner to many people. So when there's a railway project, many global players approach us to be partners in them, and I think that's a good development which could also happen with many other companies.